Hey, what's up? This is Jake from Nimbus DevOps, and now that we've completed making a single server, we're going to move on to making a single web server. What this is going to do is it's going to give you a simple Apache example to show how you can make multiple Terraform resources and use them together. It is not an example of how to build a website. So we're going to take advantage of AWS user data scripts, security groups, and some just simple Apache stuff. So I'm going to take the main file that we use to create our server, and I'm actually going to copy this. Actually, let's just copy this whole file, and I'm going to paste it into a new folder called single web server. I'm separating these so that you can go to my GitHub repo and actually be able to follow along and have separate code, so it's not all just jumbled on top of each other. All right, so we got gitignore, we got main file. So we need to add to this. This will successfully build a server, but we need to do something else to it. We need to add some user data. So I'm just going to say user underscore data equals, and then have my end of file and end of file. And then inside of here, I need a shebang /bin /bash. And then we need to do a sudo yum update. And then after we do our update, we're going to do an install of Apache. And then after that, I'm going to echo hello Terraform into var www html index.html, and then I'm going to system control, let's enable Apache in case you need to do a restart, and I'm going to do system control start Apache in case it's not already started, and then that should be it. Now, one optional thing you can do, it's kind of nice, is you can add something called user data replace on change and set it to true. Then if you change your user data, it will actually rebuild your instance from scratch, which is kind of nice sometimes. So this will build and that'll work just fine. However, we don't have any security groups that are going out, so there's no outbound traffic allowed right now, and there's no inbound traffic allowed, so we won't be able to hit it. So let's change that. So this is where we use multiple resources together. So I can make a resource called an AWS underscore security underscore group, and we're just going to name it web server SG. And in this security group, we will give it a name, and we'll just call it Terraform web server SG. And then we need some inbound traffic. So our ingress will be from port 80 to port 80 using protocol TCP, and we're going to allow inbound, the CIDR blocks. Let's do a public server, so any IP address. Then we need egress. Now egress is a little bit different. Egress, we need to allow anything. So we're going to say from port 0 to port 0 using protocol -1. So that means any port, any protocol, and then do the same thing for CIDR block that we did above. Just put, well, actually this is CIDR blocks should be a list. It's a hint. That would have not worked. There we go. All right, so in a string, it's a list of strings, 0.0.0.0/0. Cool. So now we have our ingress, we have our egress. Now we need to tell our instance to use it. So now up here, we need to say, hey, you are part of a PPC security group and you need an ID. And we want you to use the ID of, and then we're going to pass the name of the resource, or the resource type, I guess, and then the name that we gave it. So AWS security group .web server sg.id. So the ID is the property that we want to pass to this variable. So this is how you use a resource inside of another resource. So it's kind of meta, kind of nice. It's just like using variables inside of your code. And this should work just fine. So let's go ahead and format and validate it. So I'm going to do Terraform format, clean it up. Let's do a validate. Make sure our code's going to work. We're missing required provider. Oh, because we need to initialize. I didn't realize we hadn't done that yet. All right, so let's do a Terraform init. I forgot I made a new folder. Every time you make a new folder, you need to initialize this, which is why I added the get_ignore file. Duh. All right, so now we did the format. Now we do the validate, and it's validated. So let's do a Terraform apply, and we can just read the plan as we go. All right, so we're going to get an instance with this AMI, a T2 micro, and it's going to be part of a security group. That security group is here. Here's our ingress and egress rules. Yes, go ahead. Let's go ahead and create. So we could log into the AWS Management Console and check the instance and get the public IP and then paste that in the browser and check to make sure it's working. But I'm going to show you how to do everything programmatically. We used the AWS Management Console in the previous video, so I'm going to step up your game a little bit and do everything from the command line. Super easy command that you need to know. So it's just one extra little tool in your bag you can add that is kind of puts a little pizzazz on your sysadmin skills. And that's using the AWS CLI. So the command we're going to use is AWS EC2 describe instances. So if this is done, we should be able to run that and it'll tell us AWS EC2 describe -instances. And there it is. Here it is. Here's our AMI ID that we asked for, our instance type, it's T2 micro. And right here you can see here's our public IP address. So I can copy this, and if this worked, I can say curl this public IP address, and I should get back hello Terraform. And I do. So there you go. That's how you use multiple resources, multiple Terraform resources together to create a single web server in AWS on an EC2 instance. And we kind of nested in some variables that we use from security group inside the EC2 instance, which is kind of neat. We add some user data scripts. So I showed you how to put a script inside of there. Let's go ahead and pull that up. You can see it here. Main. There. Yeah, and that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and add this and commit this up to my repo so you'll be able to see it. And we'll go ahead and move on to something a little bit more complicated. If you have any questions, let me know. But if not, I'll see you in the next one.